Welcome. I'm the White Rabbit Witch. Join me and tap the subscribe button below. Now, let's step into today's story.
In the busy city, among countless people living their daily routines, there was a couple who seemed just as ordinary as everyone else. They worked during the day, shared dinner in the evening, and filled their home with laughter. Yet behind that laughter, there was a hollow emptiness. It had been 7 years since their marriage, and still the child they longed for never came. They visited hospitals, endured fertility treatments, but the result was always the same: hope followed by despair, again and again, slowly exhausting their hearts. But they did not give up. The husband wiped away his wife's tears, telling her, "Someday we will be parents too." The wife clung to a new hope each month, determined to endure. However, over time, that hope began to twist. The sight of friends posting about their children on social media, parents holding little hands at the supermarket, and the sound of children laughing next door, all of it pierced them like knives. The longing had shifted beyond desire, obsession. We must have a child, no matter what it takes. The wife often stood in front of the mirror, whispering to herself, "I can be a mother. Why can't I? Why must we be the ones left empty-handed?" Those whispers grew louder over time, until they became fear and anger she could no longer hide, not even from her husband. At first, he tried to comfort her. "What about adoption?" he suggested. "Maybe we should consider a different future." But her answer never changed. "No, I must hold my own child in my arms." It was no longer a simple wish. Her heart had already chosen a path. Then, one day, the couple happened upon a small birthday party in their neighborhood. Children were running and laughing, candles glowed on a cake, and parents lifted their child into the air to take pictures. That day, the wife's eyes lingered on the scene, and softly she whispered to her husband, "I wish that child was ours." In that moment, the husband realized it was not a joke. Her eyes told him the truth. She had already made up her mind. And from that day forward, their lives began to roll toward a path of no return. Beneath the surface of their ordinary life, the seed of an unthinkable crime was beginning to grow. Nights grew heavier for the couple. While the city outside glimmered with neon signs and traffic noise, their home sank deeper into silence. It was the silence of emptiness, and in that emptiness, the wife's longing turned sharper each day. She began to wander online late at night, scrolling endlessly through photos of babies, families, and nursery rooms. Sometimes she printed the pictures and placed them on the refrigerator door as though she were building a life that wasn't hers. The husband would quietly take them down, but the next day, more would appear. One evening, the wife spoke words that chilled her husband. "If others can have it so easily, then why not us? If fate won't give us a child, maybe we can take one." Her voice trembled, not from hesitation, but from a dangerous resolve. The husband froze. He wanted to dismiss it as frustration, as something said in despair, but deep down he knew it was no longer just words. Weeks later, the opportunity appeared. A neighbor's young child, often left unattended for brief moments in the playground nearby. The wife noticed first the routine, the patterns, the gaps in watchful eyes, and she began to plan. The husband resisted. He argued, begged, even threatened to leave, but each time the wife's desperation pressed harder against his weakening resolve. Her tears, her pleas, her unyielding obsession. He could not hold her back any longer, and so one evening, as dusk settled over the neighborhood, the couple stepped out of their door, not as ordinary people, but as conspirators, walking into the shadows of a crime that would change their lives forever. In the shadow of night, the couple's plan moved from whispered words to living action. The father had been observed for days, his habits, his routines, the precise times he left and returned. The mother had already mapped every detail, rehearsed each step in her mind until it became second nature, and now there was no turning back. That evening, the park was quieter than usual. Children had already gone home, laughter fading into the distance, leaving only one small boy clinging to his father's hand. The couple followed at a distance, their breaths shallow, their eyes locked on their target. When the father bent down to answer a phone call, distracted for just a moment, the mother struck. She approached the boy with a smile, gentle and convincing. "Come with me, sweetheart, just for a moment." Her hand closed around his small wrist before he even understood. In an instant, the boy was pulled toward the waiting car. The father's voice shouted behind them, a raw and broken scream. But by the time he realized what had happened, the car door slammed shut, the engine roared, and they were gone. Inside the vehicle, the boy cried out, confused, terrified. The mother whispered softly, rocking him, as though she were already his own. "Shh, don't be afraid. You're safe now. You're mine." The husband gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, his breath ragged. His mind screamed at him to stop, to turn back, but the image of his wife's tear-streaked face, her endless despair, chained him to silence. For the first time in years, the wife's arms held a child, not borrowed, not imagined, real, trembling, breathing. That night, the city erupted. Sirens wailed, patrol cars swept through the streets, and news flashed across every screen. Child missing, last seen in the park. The couple sat in their small apartment, curtains drawn, lights dimmed. Between them, the boy lay asleep, exhausted from crying. The mother stroked his hair, whispering lullabies as though the nightmare belonged to someone else. The husband watched in silence, a storm raging inside him. Every knock on the door felt like doom. Every passing siren pressed heavier against his chest. The plan had been executed. The child was theirs. But as the hours passed, one truth became clear. This was not the beginning of a family. It was the beginning of the end. The child was gone. By the time the police arrived, panic had already spread through the neighborhood. Flyers went up, neighbors searched the streets, and parents clutched their children closer. Fear grew, and so did suspicion. For the couple, their house had become both a haven and a prison. The child's presence filled the silence of their lives with cries and laughter, yet every sound was now a reminder of the crime they had committed. At night, the husband lay awake, listening to the faint breathing of the child in the next room. He wondered how long they could hide this, how long before the world came crashing through their door. The wife, however, seemed calm, too calm. She rocked the child in her arms, whispering, "You're ours now. No one will take you away." Her voice carried both comfort and madness. The police began questioning the neighborhood. They visited the couple's street. The husband felt his chest tighten each time he saw the patrol car drive by. He avoided the windows, but his wife stood proudly with the curtains half open, as if daring them to look inside. Days turned into weeks. The investigation deepened. CCTV footage revealed suspicious gaps, and witnesses spoke of a couple lingering too long near the park. Threads of the truth were being pulled together. The husband knew it was only a matter of time. In the cold, suffocating silence of the interrogation room, the couple sat apart, their hands trembling, their eyes hollow, their dreams shattered. The plan that once seemed so precise had crumbled into chaos. The child had been returned. The police had surrounded them before dawn, and now there was no escape. The husband stared at the metal table before him, unable to meet the detective's eyes. His thoughts were a blur of shame, fear, and guilt. Every decision, every silent nod to his wife's obsession had led them here. The wife, sitting in another room, kept whispering the same words, as if clinging to a dream that no longer existed. "I just wanted to be a mother. just wanted a family. But those words no longer mattered, because the truth was undeniable. They had crossed a line no one should cross. They had stolen what was never theirs. The trial was swift, the evidence overwhelming. The sentence? Years behind bars. Years to think. Years to regret. And so the couple, once so ordinary, once so full of laughter at their dinner table, was reduced to shadows behind prison walls. Their story became a cautionary tale whispered among neighbors, a story of love twisted into obsession, of hope corroded into crime. In the end, the child returned safely to their real parents, but the scars of that night remained, for the couple, for the family, and for everyone who heard their story. Because in every city, behind the closed doors of ordinary homes, there may be a smile hiding a secret, and sometimes that secret can become a nightmare that no one saw coming.